Hey everyone, I got a really special guest here, John Edwards from Just a Guy in the Pew Ministries. Now, John's been a guest on our show and we've heard his amazing conversion story. Um, but John's also got a really great program that I think just about every man in the Catholic Church should learn about and consider and discern if it's something right for them. So, John, as always, man, it's great talking to you. You're one of the guys in the church that I think really kind of matches our spirituality. Regular guy with big faith. So great to have you on, man. How you been?
I've been good, man. Thank you. The Lord's been blessing us, and we've been just meeting around the country with different churches and parishes, and starting men's groups using the program you're talking about, and just man, really enjoying the blessings the Lord's putting in front of us.
That's awesome. And that's kind of where your, I guess, spirituality originates from, is these men's groups, right? It's not these big national programs. It's not these movements within the church. I mean, it is down to the most basic building block of the church, which is a couple of guys in the church really making a way of it, really finding ways to grow in virtue and grow together as a fraternity. I mean, a lot of times I think these programs think in the terms of armies or divisions, but, you're looking at battalions, you're looking at small groups, you're looking at, a patrol, right? And I think that's where you find that fraternity. So what we're talking about is John's program, The Narrow Road. The Narrow Road is a really cool monthly men's devotion where each month you get to work on one particular virtue, right? A lot of times the feeling in the church is, well, you have to make this radical conversion and lightning bolts will shoot you down off your horse on the road to Damascus, and all of a sudden you're a saint. That's not realistic in most cases. That's why it's St. Paul and not, St. John Edwards or St. Ryan Shield, right? But we're working on it. And this is what's helping us work on it, which is one step at a time, right? Tell us a little bit about this program, why you got this going and what it does for men.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it started within my own men's group at my parish. I was meeting with a bunch of guys and I was leading. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. We just started one out of the blue, and guys were coming on every Wednesday night, and they'd share and kind of take the mask off, leave them at the door, and be real. But they still struggled during the week. They were great that night, but I would get a phone call almost every Monday. A week later, I was still in my old sales job selling auto parts, and they'd call me during the day and say, "Man, my life stinks. My wife and I are fighting. My kids and I are at odds with each other. My job's terrible." And I would listen to that for a while, and it would be an hour and a half phone call a lot of days. And then one day I started thinking about it, and I said, you know what? Like, this isn't doing any good for me just to sit here and listen to this. These guys have to actually take some action in their life. And so, the same guy called, a week later, and before he started, I said, wait a minute, before you get started, have you prayed? Have you been to adoration? Have you been to confession? Have you been to mass? Have you done anything in your spiritual life at all? And of course he said no. And I said, call me back when you've done any of those things. And so, of course he got angry. I wouldn't talk to him, whatever, hung up the phone, but he called me the next day and he said, you're right. I stopped by the church and I sat in front of the tabernacle, and I've felt more peace today than I have in a long time. And it helped me to realize that guys want to be good. They want to do good, but they need some sort of simple plan to follow in their life to get them going in the right direction. And oftentimes, as you said, we try to overcomplicate things, right? I'm going to find the 538 ways to follow Christ in my life a day. And we're guys, we put stuff like that down, right? We have good intentions. We pick it up, we read 3 pages and we go, whoa, that's too much. So I wanted to make something simple, and to start with virtue is where every man needs to go, right? Because most of us are leaning towards vice in our life, some sort of vice, and we want to be these virtuous men. So the Catechism even says in 1803 that a virtue is a habitual and firm disposition to do the good. It allows the person not only to perform good acts, but to give the best of himself. The virtuous person tends toward the good with all his sensory and spiritual powers. He pursues the good and chooses it in concrete actions. And so this is what the narrow road was meant to be, is a way for a guy to start choosing virtue. You can't sit there and say, I want to be virtuous, and then whistle and go, da, 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 da. When's it going to happen? Right? When's the lightning bolt going to hit, as you said a minute ago? You have to choose it in things. And today you see all these men lined up for these superhero movies and all these things. Why? Because we're longing for the virtue that they portray, but you don't find it in waiting for a moment to push a kid out of the front of a careening bus.
Right.
You find it in the everyday choices when my kid comes to me and says, Dad, will you spend time with me? And I look at the phone I have in my hand or the laptop I have with all the emails I need to get to, and I choose to close that and go be present to my children, right? There's all sorts of moments each and every day God puts in front of us. So the narrow road was designed to help men start focusing on the moment, the present moment, and virtues in their life. So for instance, this month is perseverance, and you're focusing on that virtue. There's a reflection in the beginning every month. Then you have a reflection each week. And there's 4 main weeks. You practice the virtue, number 1, with God, because that's the most important relationship of your life. You don't have that right, nothing else will be right.
Mhm.
You practice it next with your wife, because that's the second most important relationship. 3rd with your kids, 4th with your neighbor. And it forces you to actually look for opportunities in your life to practice this virtue every day, and ask that question every day. How did I persevere in my relationship with God today? How did I persevere with my wife? And either you're writing down, man, I did this and I recognize that, or I missed an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
I love this.
So
I love this
that's
little
what it's
chart
about.
that you include. It shows, look,
Mhm.
hey man, did you do this stuff today? Did you, spend time with your wife, with the kid? Did you pray? Did you go to mass? Did you do morning prayer? Like simple stuff, right? But it gives you the opportunity to say, here's what to do, go and do it. And men, my son, he's 6 years old, and a 6-year-old is just nothing but a little man learning how to be a man.
Yeah.
And boys, they respond to structure. When a kid doesn't have structure, they're running around going like crazy. But when they have regiment, when they have bedtime, this is snack time, this is dinner time, they flourish. That's how men's psychology, I think, really is oriented towards, is structure. And this kind of thing gives you a simple structure that any guy can follow. And you said about the phone call, right? That the guy's calling you and he's like, hey man, I want to be holy. Make it happen. Go spend an hour at the church. Did you pray? Did you do anything? Like, you're not going to, do one curl and all of a sudden become, ripped. You're not going to read one book and all of a sudden become an expert. It takes meticulous, consistent action, simple action, 1% every day. And you do that and you become a better man. There's no other silver bullet. There's no great, magic switch that you flip. It's something that you have to do and do simply. And most guys, when they look at that, they're like, I don't even know where to get started. This helps you get started. This says, okay, here is what you can do with small actions to reorient your life, because grace builds on grace. So just a little bit of action and a little bit of receptivity to the grace of the Holy Spirit will then allow the Holy Spirit to continue to edify and build you up one brick at a time, right? And
Amen.
like I said, when you first told me about this course, I'm like, this is, I think, the best idea for men in the church. There's a lot of great men's programs. Wow. There's some great ones, but this one is the one to me that makes the most sense for the most men, right? The narrow road, because there's so many options. I think it's Jose Maria Escriva, but don't quote me on that. But he's, someone was asking him, well, which devotion should I pick? He's like, pick one devotion and stick to it. You don't need to have a devotion to the Sacred Heart and to the Miraculous Medal and to Our Lady of Lourdes. And it's too much. Pick one and own it. And there's the saying that, an expert is just someone who focuses on one thing, right? That's how you become an expert, right? Dedicated focus. This is the kind of thing that helps you become an expert on growing your spirituality. A dedicated focus on simple actions to make yourself better. What are guys saying about this? How is this helping, man?
Man, I'll tell you what, we get comments all the time from guys that say this is absolutely changing my life. I'm a better husband and father. I got a picture from a guy in Scotland holding it up in a tall grassy field with a narrow path through it. And he said, thank you so much for this. I'm now on the narrow road to becoming the man that I always wanted to be. And it's the simple things, like you said, most men struggle with, I don't know how to pray. Like, I don't even know how to start, right? I don't know how to talk to God. I don't know if he's talking to me. Most people don't have a relationship with Jesus. And I think you can, it's not a blanket statement of condemnation. It's just, you look at our church and you look at, the effect we're having. If we all had a personal relationship with Christ, we'd be making a greater difference in the world. And a lot of people don't know how to find that. And so the narrow road through that does a couple of things. One, you're praying for the virtue every day with a prayer from the church, right? That the church is given for that virtue. So you're praying, you're starting that conversation with God, but then you're reading the gospel reading every day. And there's a question in there that I ask, what is God saying to me in the gospel every day? And that may seem like a simple question, but how many times do we not ask that? You know, we read it and we go through it. We go, okay, I read my Magnificat today. I'm ready for Mass. And we go on. And we don't say, what is the Lord saying to me in my life? Because the scriptures are living, right? And God wants to message himself to us. He wants to know us and for us to come to know him. So a lot of guys have said, I've never been able to have a conversation with Christ. I've never felt like I really heard him talking to me through the scriptures and all these things. So practicing this every day is opening a dialogue for God. And through that dialogue, he begins to tell them who he is and who they are. And they begin to identify their gifts, and then they can go and start living in those gifts and become the man that he wants them to be and play their part in their role of the plan of salvation, right? To go out and to do what God has uniquely made them to do.
Yeah, I mean, you have the readings every day in here for the month, right? That's great. Look, if you got nothing else besides a reason to, hey, read these every day, okay, you're already better. Okay, but then you also have a chart of activities. Did you do this every day? Okay, now you're twice as better, right? And then there's reflections on your relationship with God, with your wife, with your children, with your community. Okay, now you're really starting to build on top of it. You know, you're really starting to take all these small, simple actions. You know, journeys of a million miles start with 2 steps, right? 1, 2.
Yeah.
And that's what this does. I just think it's such a great timely program. And I love how it focuses on one specific virtue. And they're simple virtues. It's, you know, humility, it's perseverance, you know, it's trust, whatever it is. You're not saying, hey, let's go learn, you know, Aquinas' Summa, right? No, here's how to get you down the narrow road that leads to salvation. Here is a simple, put one foot in front of another. And if you stay on this path, which is the narrow road, you're going to get to where you want to go. There's no shortcuts. There is no shortcuts on that path. And I love this program. What else comes with it? So when you sign up for the narrow road and you become, you know, a member of this tribe going down this path, how else do you help these men and guide them down that path?
Sure. Well, we do all kind of things. First of all, when they join, they become a member of the Just a Guy in the Pew community. So we put out 5 videos a month that go with the 5 reflections. And I intentionally made them short. They're 8 to 12 minutes so that men can use them in a men's group. We actually have a parish program where they can get, you know, a discount if they want to join at the parish. And that's what we've been doing, going around and speaking and starting, helping train men to start and lead groups with vulnerability, accountability, authenticity, all of those things. But once they're a member, they get access to all 5 of those videos. They get PDF copies of every narrow road that's happened. So if they come in, they go, well, I missed 5 of them. They can go back and look through them, or they can wait till they come back around because it matches the 3-year cycle of the church. We also do deeper dives on the podcast. So we have the Just a Guy in the Pew podcast. It's 27 minutes. A lot of times we don't get to all the things we wanted to say. So I do deeper dives with that for the guys that are members. We also do interviews with people like, you know, Chris Stefanik and Father Donald Calloway and all these other folks aimed at issues men are dealing with, not just a random interview, but guys are saying they struggle with this. I'm going to go find someone that's really good at understanding that and talk to them about it. So there's always an extra part of that interview that's just for members, an extra 10, 20 minutes that's in there as well. But they get all of that, and then they get discounts on any live retreats we do, any courses that come out, and any other training we have for men to become leaders.
Yeah. And John, I know what you charge for this. It's $20 a month, right?
Yeah, it's 20. Well, with shipping, yeah, it's $5 more, 25. Yep.
Yeah. This is not about making John Edwards a rich man. This is not what it is.
Right.
You are providing a ton, because we've heard your story. We've heard how you were radically changed, but we also heard how it came through perseverance, how you hit that bottom and then you took that long walk back from the bottom to where you are now. And it was a long walk, and you've been through this. You have went from the depths to now being just a guy in the pew, right? And this is a path that any man, no matter how low you're at, look, if you've been away from the church, this can help you. If you're struggling with your relationship with God, this can help you. If your marriage isn't what it used to be, this can help you. if you're not being the father to your children that you want to be, this can help you. And it teaches you, again, these simple virtues, not these high-minded, crazy theological concepts where you had to have went to seminary for 4 years and have a doctorate. It's not about that. This is about taking one step at a time on one road that leads directly to the heart of Christ. And I don't know what is better for a man in today's church, because, John, you and I both know the church right now is not really oriented towards the everyday man, right? The liturgy, the groups at church, the music at church, the materials that the church produces doesn't always resonate with the guy who wakes up, does his 9 to 5, has his kids, worries about his checking account, looks at the bills on the table, and likes to maybe cook a steak on the grill on the weekend. The church isn't, and through maybe no fault of her own, isn't really oriented towards that. But this is for every man out there. And this is the thing that helps you reconnect with that, so that you can find a deep meaning, a deep relationship with Christ in the Mass, in the church, in your community, in your family, and in your children. And that's why I love this program so much. So, John, where can they go? Well, actually, John, we made a special link. So if anyone watching is interested in this, if you go to catholictalkshow.com/narrow road, you can register for this and you can get signed up right now, and you can start taking these steps on that path, this narrow road that leads to you to where you want to be the man that God meant you to be. And I think it's just great. I mean, I appreciate you sending this to me. A lot of the guys in my office, we're using this. We see it every month, and it's really just, like I said, I couldn't recommend it enough for men out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And for those who wonder how you get it too, it ships straight to your door every month. So it's going to hit your front door once you sign up by the 1st, so that you start the month on the ground running and start putting these practices into your life every month. And you know what's coming. You look forward to the next virtue, and you build upon what you've already done. It's sort of like the cobblestones that make up the narrow road that lead to heaven.
That's awesome. And then again, if you're a leader in your parish, or you lead some of the groups, or you have a men's group, there's also opportunities for this, to where you can get information to help you lead these groups with other men, because this is the kind of program that more parishes need. There's not a lot of great programs for men at parishes. And if they are, it's a lot of times it's like, okay, let's go watch a DVD, and then let's go, talk for 5 minutes, and then you leave. That's not how guys are wired. This is men sitting around a metaphorical campfire, making themselves better, right? This is a band of brothers, uniting themselves and walking down a path. And this is like Lord of the Rings. This is like Band of Brothers. This is like, a troop of men dedicated and committed to the same goal, walking together. And I love it. It's great.
Yeah, it is. And that's what we've tried to do, because I know what you're mentioning. I mean, I've been to plenty of groups where it's just, you show up, you make announcements, you have a prayer, you watch, 35 minutes of a 45-minute video, and then you have 5 minutes to surface level share, and you leave. And so what we try to do is not so much just focus on those things, but to teach men how to actually lead, right? I know what it feels like when God asks you to do something and you don't know how to do it, and there's not anybody to show you how. So he has, in a way, shown me a very successful way to be able to get men trained, for them to be comfortable to lead people. And that's what we want to do. When I go to these parishes, it's not just to give a talk and to collect some money from the ministry and leave. I want to, 10 years later down the road, look in that church's bulletin and see a group of men that's meeting 10 years later at the same night at the same time. That's where the fruit is. And so that's what we do. The narrow road helps with that. But we also provide that training you're talking about, so that men feel comfortable to lead. They understand what it takes to lead other men. It's not hitting a video. It's not getting a box of donuts and setting it out. It's leading with your own vulnerability, your own example, and being willing to be accountable and walk with other men.
Awesome. Well, John, again, I appreciate you coming on. For anybody who hasn't seen the episode where John was on, where he talked about his conversion story, I'm going to put a link down below. You got to check it out. It's one of our most I think impactful episodes. A year later, I'm getting messages of people saying, I saw this and I cried and I was so inspired. And the three of us, when we did that, we hung up the video and we're like, wow, man, that is a story. That is the kind of guy and we want to be, man. We were inspired by you. And that you have this program. It really, I think it's, again, something that we recommend, something that, guys, it's $20. Try it out. Try it out for a month or two and do it wholehearted. Do something in your life wholehearted. I mean, so many men, it's just like, I'm just doing enough to get by. But this is something you can do with all your heart, all your might, but it's simple enough that you can start now. It's simple enough to where you don't have to have this elaborate plan. You get this guide and do it for 1 month, do it for 2 months, and see how much your life actually changes by taking small, concrete actions towards virtue. And you'll see how far down that narrow road you've actually traveled. And if you do that for 2 months, you're not going to look back, because your momentum is going to be careening you towards Christ. And that's why I love it.
Thank
John,
you, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
yeah. And John, like I said, and we got to catch up soon. Go have a beer, go fishing or something, and get you back on the show again as well real soon. So John, thank you so much again. So if you're out there, if you're a man who's interested, or, if you taking a look at your husband and saying he could use a little spark right now, go to catholictalkshow.com/narrow road. You can sign up right now. And try it out. You have nothing to risk. A couple cups of coffee, 2 6-packs of beer over the course of the month covers this. It's not much, but it gives you everything. And that's the kind of economy of salvation that the church needs, right? So again, catholictalkshow.com/narrow road. You can check it out. John, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it, brother.
All right. We'll see y'all next time.